Hello YouTube, welcome to Super Lorcana World. This is your one-stop shop for everything Lorcana. I hope you guys are having a great long weekend. I know I am. I'm trying to do as very little work as possible. But we are here recording a video because this is important. This here is the results of the first PPG Lorcana event. I believe it was 43 people. So, reasonable size for a Lorcana event. I will talk about more of that at the end of everything, because I do have thoughts and opinions about that. But this is mainly a top 8 review. We want to see the snapshot of top meta and see what exactly is going on, and what deck choices help these players get to where they got in the tournament. Big shout out to Anthony King for winning with Amber Steel. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I have some closing thoughts after the deck profiles. Make sure you stick around for those. And do let me know what you think in the comment section below. Of course, like and subscribe. We're a new channel. We want to grow. And all that fun stuff. So please do that. That would be great. And yeah, if we start off here, we see 2 Ruby Amethyst, 2 Steel Amethyst taking up 4 top 8 spots. And they got an Amber Emerald, an Amber Amethyst, an Emerald Amethyst, and an Amber Steel. Very, very cool. We see 6 Amethyst decks basically make the top 8. Amethyst being really, really, really powerful. We see here Steel decks taking up 2, 3 spots. We see Amber taking up 1, 2, 3 spots. Emerald here takes up 1, 2. Ruby only really appears in the Ruby Amethyst decks, but definitely Amethyst showing up to be the top ink of the first set. I mean, it has Pot of Greed and really good old legendaries. I don't know why it wouldn't be the top color, top ink. Anyway, let's move right along here to first place. So this is Anthony King's first place deck. Unsurprisingly to me, it's a Stitch deck. And it's Steel Stitch. That was the very first deck profile uploaded to my channel once real cards were here. I told you guys that this deck was going to be like the deck to beat. This deck is very good. Am I surprised it won? Absolutely not. Stitch is amazing with his ability to draw many cards every turn. And then you're playing Steel-based removal to kind of help. Tinkerbells, smashes, and grab your swords. What I find interesting is that he's playing 4 copies of A Whole New World and 4 Ariel along with 4 Be Our Guest. In my place, I played frickin' Grab Your Cannons instead, or Shoot Your Cannon. I can't remember the card name for life of me. The Cannons. But he went for the Whole New route, which is super interesting to me. I've tried it. You basically... You get to a point, right, where you might not have any cards in your hand, so you got to use the Whole New World to refresh. And then once you refresh, you just combo off and go crazy. And that's kind of the idea, I think, here. Plus, he's not trying to deck anyone out. That's for sure. And then there's 8 copies of Steel Challengers, which I like. I was only doing Captain Hooks, but he's on the Captain Eric as well, and that's fair. He even plays little Tinkerbell to help loot until you get in Big Tinkerbell. And all around, I think this deck is just really strong. I think Amber Steel Stitch is definitely a way to go if you want to do well at a much larger tournament. And he did. So shout out to this guy, Anthony, for winning. Steel wins the event. I'm really not surprised. Now, on to second place. You can see this deck profile is kind of the wrong way here. So we're going to bring it over here. Shout out to Jonathan Ball, luxury teammate and all that, coming second place with what many people consider to be the best deck of the format, the Ruby Amethyst deck. And yes, if this deck gets to turn 7 and then can launch and be prepared, it basically controls the game from there. However, the deck has to get to turn 7. And that's where Stitch decks and aggro decks can kind of come in and win before they get to that point. Even hitting a Dragonfire on a Stitch, that's really powerful if you can do it. But if they get that turn 3-4 Stitch, they're going to get a lot of advantage before you Dragonfire anyway. So definitely kind of awkward. But nonetheless, here we are. We have a lot of interesting choices here. We have a couple of Mickey Mouses. We have an Ursula. Ursula's good at stealing life. 4 Aladdins for stealing life. 4 Maui, because it's basically a removal card, is really good. He's also playing 4 Little Aladdin to help outpace aggro matchups, which is really, really cool. 4 Elsa. Big Elsa's really good. 4 Maleficent's really good. You have Rafiki's to help with aggro. Gaston to help with Cusco. A couple 1-drops to help with aggro. Got a little bit of a Broom package. 3 Broom, 2 Mickey Mouse to help recur resources, not deck out. Goofies here are interesting. Being a 5-drop evasive for 3-4. Not a bad choice. Evasive's good. 3-4 is good stats. Quest for 2, which is good. And besides that, nothing too crazy besides that. White Rabbit's Pocket Watch is essential. you need to have Rush sometimes. So I think the White Rabbit Pocket Watch is really good. One copy of Cauldron, I like that. I like Cauldron a lot. I like the shield. That's really, really cool. Magic Mirror is obviously really good. And Befuddle is really cute. I guess it helps you with your aggro and all that. I guess you could also bounce your own stuff to hand. Maybe. I don't think you ever would. But, you know, it's there. So all in all, this is the best deck of the format, is what many people think. And it went to second place. And as long as you get to turn 7, and then you can go from beyond that, you will probably win every game you play. So that's the whole theory behind the deck. It's a control deck, and honestly, you love to see it. You love to see this deck doing well. Really expensive deck, all the legendaries you got to play here, but that's kind of okay. Not a big deal. So let's move on here to third place. Third place here is Steel Amethyst. Got your Pot of Greeds. You need to play your Pot of Greeds. I didn't cover that in this one, but of course there's 4 Pot of Greed. Got your Pot of Greeds. You got your Broom engine here with 4 Broom, 4 Mickey, 4 of the Queen for draw power, 3 Big Elsa, 2 Ursula, and the whole suite of steel removal here. You got the cannons, you got the grab your swords, you got the big Tinkerbells. Not playing smashes is interesting, but he's on 4 Beast, and he's even on Captain Hook to bring back the cannons. So honestly, not too bad. And the rest of the deck is just basically control. You got a White Rabbit Pocket Watch for some Rush. You got some Challenger stuff going on. You got Elsa. You know, honestly, really good deck. It's not aggro. It's not supposed to be fast, but it's supposed to control your opponent's board, keep their resources off the board, and then you slowly win, just slowly questing here and there. Nothing too crazy here. Just a nice deck. Just control the board and win from there. You love to see it. Shout out to Brooks for the 3rd place. Now we'll move on to the 4th place deck, which is a little more aggressive. It's Emerald Amethyst. All these Amethyst decks in the top 4, huh? With the Pot of Greeds. You love to see it. But this is just basically an aggro deck. You're trying to get to your 20 lore as fast as possible. Got Cusco, Mad Hatter here for some quick lore. You got Hans for some quick lore. You got freaking Flynn Rider for some quick lore. You got Pascal for evasive lore. Cheshire Cat for quick lore. And you have a couple options to help you get rid of threats, like you got Rafiki, you got Befuddle, you got Jasper prevent things from questing, and you got Mother Knows Best and Genie, John Silver and Reckless. This is an aggro deck where a higher end will help control your stuff to make sure that you can aggro and pop off. Really good deck, really solid deck. I have nothing to add to this. You're going to win really quickly, and then if your opponent does something annoying, bouncing their stuff back to hand. So that's it. 5th place here goes to Amber Amethyst. What really interests me about this deck is that there's no big Stitch. It doesn't exist. It's not so much an aggro deck. It's not like a Turbo Amethyst Stitch deck. It is not that. It is, again, more of a controlling deck. You're slowly going to get there, as opposed to try and get there really, really quick with your Stitches. And you're playing 4 Rapunzel here because your stuff's going to get damaged and you want to draw cards. I'm all for that. That's really powerful. I think Rapunzel's crazy. You got things like You've Forgotten Me, 4 of it for control. Discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. A nice, well-timed that could just discard your opponent's whole hand, and that could be it. Got Part of Your World for recursion, resource recursion. Obviously, Pot of Greeds. Rafiki's to help with aggro. Mickey Mouse's are a nice little aggro option there to help you get in lore, or just a good body for what it is. And you even have Big Stitch on the top end to kind of just draw 2 cards. Honestly, there's nothing... It's just not an aggro Amber Amethyst deck. It's really cool, and it highlights one of the strengths about this game, is you can definitely do Amber Amethyst aggro, but you can also play a slower version of Amber Amethyst, and you can do really well. You can. And this is the proof, because this deck came 5th place. I got nothing to say here. Shout out to Samuel for the 5th place. Here we have a 6th place, another Steel Amethyst deck. Very, 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 very similar to this one. A couple different choices. Like Smash, for instance, 4 Smash, 2 top-end Maui for just big, big, big body. You love big, big, big bodies. Not so good against, things like Dragonfire or Maleficent, but it's fine. Not much of a difference here between the other one. What I will shout out, though, is the random copy of Dr. Facilier, the one that when your stuff dies by challenge, it returns to your hand. I really like this card. I'm surprised not more people play it, because it gives you such value. You just drop this card, you run into some stuff, you recur the resources, and you play them all over again. even if you do it like one turn, you return 2 or 3 resources, and then they dragon fire or something next turn. That's still really powerful, and it combos really well with certain cards, and you just get them back to your hand. I don't see any Rafiki, which is a little interesting to me. I'm not going to complain though. I think Rafiki with Facilier is a really, really, really good combo, which is why I'm super surprised that I'm not seeing it. But besides that, this is just your Amber. This is your Amethyst Steel. Good value, control board. Eventually, just gain lore and win the game. Love to see it. 7th place here, we got the Hung Lee Ruby Amethyst. I know Hung from Digimon Space. He does well at big tournaments. He plays in my tournaments every week. Well, not every week, but sometimes. So shout out to this guy for topping this event. I think it's really cool. Some notable differences between this one and the 2nd place deck. He's on 4 Mickey Mouse, so he's really capitalizing on that just aggro. 4 Dragonfire, which I'm personally a really big fan of. A little bit of a smaller Aladdin package, but I think that's okay, not a big deal. And even the 2 Goofy is here. The 4 1-drops are here, the Gastons are here, the 2 Shield as opposed to 1 and 1, we got 2 and 2. And 2 Rafiki might be a little bit small for my liking, but honestly, this deck is very similar to this deck, which I really, really like. It's a testament to kind of, once you have a deck kind of solved, as we have this deck pretty much solved, it can just do a lot of good things. So again, I'm not going to repeat. Shout out to Hung for 7th place. This deck is tier 1 for a reason, and you love to see it. The last deck here is an Amber Emerald deck, and I'm going to bring it up here like this so you guys can see it properly. So it's really hard to see with the glare, I will say. But we got 4 Cusco over here, 4 Hans, 4 Cat, 4 Genie, 4 Mad Hatter, 4 Mother Knows Best, 4 Rapunzel is really good as well. 4 1-drop, 4 2-drop. You got Stitches, Lilos, and Hey-Heys. And then you got Symbols to help protect, and you got 2 copies of Hades for that circular recursion. Hades has back Hades, does it forever. Kind of cool. Besides that, the 2 copies of You've Forgotten Me have made their way to another deck. And honestly, this one is a little more aggro. It doesn't rely on Stitch to get its aggro stuff done, but it relies on your big value Emerald cards, and things like Lilo as well, to get you some extra lore. It is just an aggro deck with a small amount of control with the 4 Mothers and the 4 Genies. Pretty good stuff. And that's all I gotta say on this. So that's your top 8. Those are your top 8 decks from this PPG. Now, for some closing thoughts about the tournament in a whole. It's really cool what PPG is doing. They're holding 3 different tournaments to start off the thing. The Lorcana event. There's this one, there's another one, and then there's one in Ohio, which I'm going to. Those are all really good to see. You love to see people holding these bigger tournaments. Now, when I say bigger tournaments, I do really want to take that term with a grain of salt. Because some people will be, kind of not interested in the fact this is only a 42-person tournament. They'll be like, yeah, it's basically a locals. And, technically speaking, there are no large tournaments right now. But the only data we have is this data, right? This data, the Lorcana HQ event, and some other reasonably sized events. But I know people in cities that had a 38-person locals, for instance. So that's just kind of how it is. Take everything with a grain of salt. I think that these tournaments are showing a similar theme. Ruby Amethyst is doing good. Aggro decks are doing good. But there's no definitive tier 0. And I just want to drive that point to home because some people think Ruby Amethyst is the way to go and that's it. But clearly, as you can see from the results here, it is not. Otherwise, every Ruby Amethyst deck that would have played the event would have top 8'd or whatever, right? So just food for thought as we move along into the rest of the Set 1 format. It's a lot of variety, and variety is really good for card games. Some of these decks are really, really budget as well, and you'd love to see budget for you budget players out there, because the game is kind of expensive, But that's it. That's my top 8 review for the PPG event. Do let me know what you think in the comment section below, guys. I'll see you later. Bye!